And tonight on After Dark we have satellite interviews with Denise Williams and the beautiful Carly Simons. Plus we talk with Icehouse, and we've got the legendary Bob Dylan. Yo, Yodi. Good evening and welcome again to another After Dark. We've also got a lot of other people, like Iva Davies will be in from Icehouse, and then we've got two guys from Pseudo Echo. We'll talk to the big fella again, Pee-wee out of the Deltones, who are doing just enormous business all over the country. Two crazy ladies and a little bit more, in fact, a couple more guys out of an enormous group, 7-piece lineup out of Adelaide. So that's all to happen. Don't go away. The satellite's coming in again. Frankie goes to Hollywood first, and then an oldie from Skyhooks. Remember them? I thought and we have Iva Davies. It's really nice, Iva, to have you in tonight.
Thank you.
And I didn't say Davis, I said Davies.
I'm glad you got
slip of the tongue, mate. Coca-Cola as always, for the straight people in the world. You once played oboe and you worked in the symphony orchestra. What symphony orchestra? How long was that?
Numerous symphony orchestras.
How long was it that you played oboe?
Well, I played oboe for from when I was 11 till when I was 22 or something, a long time. But what happened was initially that I played in, when you become a conservatorium student, you get kind of employed as a sort of up-and-comer to go into various orchestras that get put together for professional performances out of all the professional orchestras. In other words, they borrow players from everywhere.
Yeah, gotcha.
And so I did that, and then I got employed as a casual, and that was with the Sydney Symphony and with the Elizabethan Trust and whatever. My only full-time position was with a thing called the ABC National Training Orchestra, which is kind of like a sort of an apprentice orchestra. And out of that orchestra they get people for the big orchestras.
The biggie.
Yeah.
And you decided to take another tack.
Well, I didn't get on very well with the conductor of that orchestra. And most of the people there didn't, but the thing was that I decided at one point I had enough. Most of the people there sort of just took it.
Hung in.
And they just hung in there until they got a job, and that was all right. But I lasted about 7 months, and that was it. I just quit in the middle of a solo I was supposed to be playing. You know,
Goodbye.
I just forget it. I'm
Must
going.
Have been a nice sound as you walked out. Lead line writer, were you doing that too at the same time as playing the oboe for these people?
No, I wasn't a kind of swap, because when I left the orchestra, really I'd kind of burnt my bridges pretty thoroughly, because the ABC wouldn't employ me and whatever, because I was a prima donna and all that. So I had to go back to, I virtually did nothing. I just sort of hung around beaches and stuff for ages, and the only work I could find was doing this kind of lead line writing, which...
Let's explain that.
Well, what happens is that a lot of people who write songs can't actually write them out.
Put them on paper.
They can make records and they can record them and everything, but they've never learned to read or write music. So somebody has to be employed to make sheet music out of it. And so what eventually happened was that everybody would send me their singles, mostly the top 40 Australian product. At a certain point of time, I would actually get coming into my house, and I'd sit down and work out what they'd done and then write it out for them. And then that would get turned into sheet music, and that was my job.
Amazing. I didn't know that till today, you know. I really am, I feel quite humble now.
No, well, it was really interesting, because you get to sort of find out what people do. I mean, I wrote out songs for, and not only Australian people, but people like Graham Parker and Elvis Costello. I wrote, you know, the Elvis Costello songbook and stuff like that. So that was for, I think that was his probably his first album, which was a really great album. It had lots of songs like Watching the Detectives and things like that. So I wrote all those songs out, and so I really, that was the first time I dissected songs, and it was really interesting.
That's what led you into forming your own band and getting into it yourself, right?
Well, it was kind of an aside, because I was sort of a fan by then already. I was a fan of all these peculiar people like Lou Reed and stuff that classical musicians would normally hate, because they sound so bad, you know. And I really like them, but that was an interesting kind of thing, because I'd never actually sat down and had to work out things that carefully, that quickly.
Beautiful.
Because eventually I could do it within about 3 hours. I could work out a single and then give it back to them in sheet music.
That's great. I'll come to you. I've just jotted down a couple of songs of late, but I can't put them on the paper either. I want to talk to you about Razorback a little bit later on, and also the tour overseas and the upcoming one here in Australia. Let's have a look at Don't Believe Anymore. Icehouse, off the latest album.
And I don't know who you are, no, all those things I hear you say. You talk that way, you're a stranger, and I don't know where to begin. Don't want to hear it again. I don't believe anymore.
Someone's way back. Good little song, eh? Icehouse, and we are talking with Iva Davies, and we'll have some more guests in very shortly, but quickly if I can, the tour in Australia starts when?
Starts this Sunday, which is, yeah, very shortly.
Right, hours from now, and you're off where? All states?
We're going all over the place. What's happened is that we were originally just going to do 5 dates, and we're going to come back again in November. But there's been a few requests, so we're actually going to put in a couple of extra dates as we can do it on the way.
Add-ons.
Yeah, so there'll be more than 5 dates, but we're covering, you know, obviously Sydney, Melbourne and Adelaide, Brisbane and Canberra as well, Wollongong, Newcastle. So we're doing a few.
The band these days is 7-piece.
Yeah, it's getting bigger by the minute.
And Joe Camilleri's involved.
Yeah, well, Joe is, it's different, it's great. Joe's not actually sort of coming on as a special guest, he's sort of part of the band.
Part and parcel, right?
He's doing lots of stuff, he's singing backing vocals, he's singing up the front with me most of the time.
Top bloke.
Yeah, he's great.
What a talent.
Really made a difference, and just... It sort of feels much better now. When we were in Europe, we all had a great time. It's strange when you've got 7 people because it's so many people, but it really works well.
Big party. And the sax line on that last thing that we just saw of course yours is him.
Yeah, he played on that, and he played on quite a lot of the album, actually.
Right. Love to have a chat with you about Razorback and how you composed the score for that with the music.
With the machine.
For the Bizzo. It was the Fairlight, right?
That's right, yeah.
I just wondered whether you might have locked yourself away. But maybe if you can hang in for a while.
Sure.
Only hours to go before you start your tour, so I'll leave it to you to decide. First interview via satellite tonight with Denise Williams, who has that huge hit around the world. Let's pick it up right now.
There are hot records, and then there are hot records. And nobody can appreciate that more than Denise Williams, whose smash hit, let's hear